All right, guys. So, Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is addressing Congress today and basically requesting a no-fly zone over Ukraine, which is basically like asking for World War III. Let's keep it all the way 100, okay? That's basically what he's asking for, okay? Because in order to enforce a no-fly zone, we would have to shoot down Russian aircraft, which means that we would be in a direct conflict with Russia over Ukraine. And for that reason, this proposal is obviously very, very, very controversial. Or maybe not, as there have been polls that have shown that the American people actually do support a no-fly zone over Ukraine, which I found to be very, very, very fascinating and shocking, okay? As I don't believe that the people who actually answer that poll understand the ramifications of what a no-fly zone would entail, right? I don't think they actually understand the consequences of a no-fly zone, okay? I mean, it's easy to come out here and say you support something, but I guarantee you, if you ask them, would you support World War III with Russia, they would say no. But a no-fly zone would effectively be World War III with Russia. So again, I'm not necessarily sure if the American people actually really understand the consequences of a no-fly zone and what that would actually entail. But hey, the good thing is that we have competent and coherent leaders in charge, like Joe Biden.
Stage, but that's enough too. Look at the stage. But there's been a little change in the arrangement of who's on the stage because of the First Lady's husband contracting COVID. But look at this room and what you see. Pardon? That's right. She's fine. It's me. That's not together. The second lady, the first gentleman. How about that? Anyway.
And Nancy Pelosi that can lead the way for us in regards to what we may do in Ukraine, as Nancy Pelosi came out here just a week ago and drunkenly gave us an explanation of our position on a no-fly zone over Ukraine. Take a look.
Did the discussion come up with President Zelensky about a no-fly zone?
Yeah.
What did he have to say about that, and where do you stand on that?
Well, I had last week and this week conversations with the Speaker of the Parliament of Ukraine, and that was and correspondence that he sent us and the rest. That has always been one of the things they ask for. But they know that we can't go there. Putin is trying to bait the trap so that we go in, and that's the beginning, could be the beginning of World War III. Putin totally irresponsible, using weapons that are not allowed under the Geneva Convention. Putin, who threatens uses chemical weapons, nuclear, and the rest. So they know that we can't, but it's the ask. Now, he was this morning more. If we can't have a no-fly zone, let us have our own, and we need the airplanes to come in. And that is what that is that there are planes that the Ukraine pilots are trained on, and these are some of the planes that are in Poland. Poland said that they would do it if America said yes. America said yes, and now they want backfill. That's, in other words, if we give these to Ukraine, then we want to. But this morning he was less on the ask for the policy, more on let us do it, help us get the planes. But also there is a school of thought that thinks the anti-aircraft missiles and the rest are a very important way. Myself, when I see those tanks, that 40 miles of tanks, I'd like to take out those tanks. I mean, I think that then having more planes might be useful, but that I'm not a military strategist. We hope that we will be able to get it to a place. I hope. You asked me how. I hope that we can get to a place where the MiGs, which are the kinds of planes they've been trained on, can go to Ukraine.
Yeah, so I really don't know what she's saying there, right? I really don't know. Okay, she seems to be all over the place, and clips like that from Nancy Pelosi happen way too often. It makes me wonder, how in the world does somebody in the district that she's from hear her talk and say, yeah, this woman is coherent enough to be a politician, to be what, the most powerful person in Congress, arguably, as Speaker of the House, third in line to be president. Again, we are 2 heartbeats away from that being the president of the United States. Okay, I want people to understand that. That right there is a advertisement for why we need term limits, right? She cannot just clearly explain our position on whether or not we're going to have a no-fly zone over Ukraine, right? She can't explain anything at all, right? She's all over the place, okay? She's worse than Biden, honestly, in my opinion. I mean, people question Biden and his mental capabilities. I think Nancy Pelosi's mental capabilities are more deteriorated than Biden's, to be quite honest with you. Right. But I think a lot of people just assume that she's drunk. OK, even though reportedly she doesn't drink. But I don't know, man. She seems drunk to me. I don't know. Term limits. Right. Term limits. We need term limits. I think that video footage is all the footage that you need, that these people should not be in Congress. Right. They should not be the leaders of the free world. No way. No how. They're too old. OK. But yeah, Zelensky, he's in Congress today asking us to do something that, again, in my opinion, I think is too much, right? As he's asking Congress to back a no-fly zone. So let's actually read about what he said here. In a direct plea to Congress Wednesday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky asked for the U.S. to enforce a no-fly zone over his country, inviting outside military intervention to stop the bloodshed from the war waged by Russia. Quote, remember Pearl Harbor, remember September 11th. Our country experiences this every day, right now, at this moment, every night for 3 weeks now, Zelensky said, referring to the historical attacks on American soil. So I'm not necessarily sure how I feel about this guy pulling up the Congress and bringing up Pearl Harbor and 9/11 as a way to drag us into a war with Russia that would basically result in the loss of lives that would be way more devastating than what happened on any of those 2 days, right? Especially for Americans, okay? Again, here's the thing about Zelensky. I don't necessarily have anything against him, but I'm not one of these people that's going to treat this guy like some type of hero, and everything that he says shouldn't be questioned. What he's saying right now definitely should be questioned. Now, I understand why he's saying it, because at the end of the day, he's trying to look out for his country. He's trying to protect his country. But he's asking us essentially to go to war, potentially risk World War III over Ukraine, a country that, you know, all due respect here, I mean, we just don't have that much invested in that country. Our interests aren't that deep in that country unless you're Hunter Biden, for us to actually justify going to World War III with Russia over that, right? And now it's one thing if they attack an actual member of NATO, then I think that's different. Okay, that's a little bit different. And even then, I would still be like, you know, is it really worth it? But I feel like it would actually be a legitimate like question at that point, right? It'd be a legitimate conversation worth having. Right now, it's not a legitimate conversation worth having. Ukraine is not a part of NATO, despite what Kamala thinks, right? And we just don't have that much interest in them. Okay, there's just not that much there. And so with that being said, I just think that this is a non-starter here. But this guy is, again, making demands. Such a proposal to close the skies over Ukraine will require the U.S. to shoot down Russian aircraft over the territory, risking an escalation of the regional conflict into an international one, which the American public largely opposes, according to recent polls. Again, there's some polls that say otherwise. I think that it depends on how you ask the question. Okay, I think if you ask, do you want us to be out here shooting down Russian planes? I think the American people will say no. But if you say, oh, do you want us to enforce a no-fly zone? People who are ignorant of what a no-fly zone actually means and entails will probably say yes. In addition to this demand, Zelensky urged the creation of a new union of responsible countries that have the strength and consciousness to stop conflict immediately by imposing sanctions and providing weapons and humanitarian support. The goal of such an organization would be to keep peace and to save the world and save lives, he said. So you're asking to be a part of NATO, right? That's what it sounds like to me. Ain't that what NATO is supposed to be? Right? Okay, because your biggest thing is Russia, right? But NATO is supposed to be an alliance mainly against Russia. So that seems to be what you're asking for here. If such an alliance existed today, we could save many lives in our country, he claimed. Well, I mean, an alliance does exist today, except your country's just not a part of it. I mean, I don't know what to say, man. Zelensky proposed the U.S. sanction all politicians in the Russian Federation who are still financially and politically linked to those responsible for aggression in Ukraine, making an appeal to members of Congress and the businesses in the districts. He said that American companies should leave the Russian market immediately. All American ports should be closed for Russian goods, he said, as peace is more important than income. Wow, I'm glad this guy is in a position to tell us what's in our best interest, okay? Hey, you American people, y'all need to suffer behind us, okay? You need to suffer over us, even though we're not part of NATO. You know, y'all ain't really got that much of an interest in us, really, to be quite honest with you. But you need to suffer, okay? You need to suffer just like we're suffering. I mean, I just find it fascinating. This guy just pulls up to Congress and makes these demands. But hey, you know, considering the State of the Union address looked like the State of the Union of Ukraine and all the propaganda from the mainstream media about Ukraine, I don't blame the guy, right? I really don't. Since the assault on Ukraine began, the Biden administration has announced multiple tranches of sanctions, first as a deterrent mechanism, but now as a hefty punishment designed to crush the Russian economy and pressure Putin to abandon his militaristic ambitions. Zelensky then played a stirring video depicting the horror of Ukraine's destruction over Russian invasion, which began on February 24th with graphic casualties and death. Quote, "I see no sense in life if it cannot stop the death." He said, "President Biden, you are the leader of our great nation. I wish you to be the leader of the world. Being the leader of the world means being the leader of peace. By staying behind and command the country as it navigates existential crisis, Zelensky has been regarded as a national hero, earning the praise of Western countries and their people. He has managed to stay alive, evading assassination attempts while presiding over a fiery Ukrainian resistance that has surprised and frustrated Russian forces, which Putin expected to make sweeping gains in record time." All right, so Zelensky is making demands of Congress, right? Demands that could hurt the American people, okay, and could basically drag us into war. Now, again, I understand why he's doing it. I don't blame him for doing it. But I think it's one of those things where at this point, Congress has to kind of assure the American people that we're not going to be dragged into this too deeply, okay? Sanctioning Russia is enough, okay? And the ramifications that are going to come from that is going to hurt the American people. Last thing we want to do now is drag ourselves into another war, especially a war that could potentially escalate to World War III behind a country like Ukraine, which, again, in my opinion, you know, hey, I'm pulling for them, but at the same time, you only can do so much in a situation like this, especially considering how we just don't have the strategic interest in Ukraine that we have in other countries that are actually a part of NATO. That's just the reality of the situation, in my opinion. But hey, who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, this thing escalates, you know, as the mainstream media and the politicians have basically tried to make America feel really bad for what's happening in Ukraine, which in my opinion can be used to justify potentially escalating this conflict. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.